Ever wondered why Canada seems to be losing its appeal? Well, you're not alone. Many have started to question the allure of the Great White North. Today we're going to delve into this intriguing question, armed with facts, figures, and insights that might surprise you. We're not just talking about the weather here, so if you've ever found yourself pondering about Canada's changing charm, you won't want to miss this. Stay tuned to find out. The Canadian landscape is changing, and not necessarily for the better. Imagine a balloon slowly losing air. That's a fitting metaphor for Canada's population growth rate. It's been steadily dropping over the years, with the air of enthusiasm for this northern nation seeming to seep out. What's causing this deflation? Well, one factor is the declining birth rate. Canadians aren't having as many children as they used to. The average number of children per woman has been falling for decades, and currently hovers just below 2. Meanwhile, the proportion of older people in the population is increasing. By 2036, it's predicted that nearly 1 in 4 Canadians could be 65 or older. This aging population places a heavier burden on social services and the workforce, and could be a contributing factor to the country's slowing population growth. But the story of Canada's changing landscape doesn't end with birth rates and an aging population. Another crucial piece of the puzzle is the rising cost of living. This is particularly noticeable in the country's major cities. In Vancouver and Toronto, for example, the cost of housing has skyrocketed, becoming increasingly unaffordable for many. A single detached home in Vancouver could set you back over $1 million, and in Toronto, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is more than $2,000 per month. Add to this the increasing costs of everyday expenses, groceries, utilities, transportation, and it becomes clear why many Canadians, particularly younger ones, are struggling to make ends meet. In fact, a recent survey found that nearly half of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. That's a far cry from the image of Canada as a land of prosperity and opportunity. The Canadian landscape is changing indeed. And while change can be a good thing, in this case it's left many questioning whether the grass is truly greener on the Canadian side. Canada's charm seems to be fading, doesn't it? Canada's economy is facing some serious challenges. This is a statement most Canadians would agree with, especially in recent years. The once robust and thriving economy is now struggling to keep up with the demands of a rapidly changing global market. One of the most pressing issues is the rising unemployment rate. Every year more and more Canadians find themselves without work, and the situation is particularly dire for the country's young population. Fresh graduates, filled with ambition and armed with degrees, are finding it increasingly difficult to land jobs that match their qualifications. Instead, they are often left scrambling for low-wage, part-time jobs, a far cry from the promising futures they envision for themselves. This lack of job opportunities is further exacerbated by the high cost of living. From housing to food to healthcare, everything seems to be getting more expensive. Yet, wages have stagnated, barely keeping up with inflation. This discrepancy has led to a decrease in the standard of living for many Canadians, with some even struggling to make ends meet. And then, there are the taxes. Canada is known for its high taxes, which are used to fund the country's social services. But as these taxes continue to rise, some Canadians are beginning to question whether they are getting a fair return on their investments. This sentiment is particularly strong among the middle class, who bear the brunt of the tax burden. These economic hurdles are not only affecting current residents, but they're also discouraging potential immigrants. People from across the world, who once viewed Canada as a land of opportunity, are now having second thoughts. They see the high unemployment rate, the declining standard of living, and the high taxes, and they wonder if there are better opportunities elsewhere. So the question remains, can Canada overcome these economic challenges, or will it continue to lose its appeal to both its residents and potential immigrants? Only time will tell. But for now, these economic hurdles are making Canada less attractive to both residents and immigrants. Canada's social and political climate is also contributing to its loss of appeal. Let's delve into this a bit, shall we? To start with, social divisions are on the rise. In a society where unity and acceptance once thrived, we're now seeing an increase in polarization. This division is not just along racial or ethnic lines, but also across economic and political spectrums. The result? A society that's more fragmented than ever before, with people finding fewer common grounds to stand on. Now, let's shift our focus to the cities. The rise in crime rates in major urban areas is a cause for concern. Public safety, which was once a hallmark of Canadian cities, is on a downward trend. People no longer feel as safe walking down the streets of Toronto or Vancouver as they once did. This growing sense of insecurity is certainly not helping Canada's appeal. But it's not just the social divisions and crime rates that are concerning. Canada's political climate is also seeing a shift. Political instability is becoming more commonplace, with frequent changes in leadership and policy direction causing uncertainty and discontent among the populace. And we can't discuss the political climate without mentioning immigration policies. While Canada has been known for its welcoming attitude towards immigrants, recent changes in policies have made it harder for people to make Canada their new home. This tightening of immigration rules is seen by many as a step in the wrong direction. Lastly, let's not forget the treatment of Indigenous communities. Despite the government's promises to improve conditions for these communities, progress has been slow. The lack of adequate housing, clean water, and educational opportunities for Indigenous people continues to be a black mark on Canada's reputation. These factors are making Canada a less desirable place to live. So as we can see, the social and political climate in Canada is far from ideal. It's a complex web of issues that's slowly but surely making Canada lose its charm. This, combined with the economic and environmental hurdles we'll discuss next, paints a rather grim picture of the Great White North. And let's not forget about the environmental concerns. Climate change, a global threat, is leaving a significant mark on Canada. The country's vast and varied landscapes are bearing the brunt of this radical change. There's an increase in natural disasters, with wildfires burning brighter and longer, floods washing through towns more frequently, and heat waves becoming more intense and prolonged. These disasters are not only wreaking havoc on the land, but also disrupting the lives of the people, adding to their reasons for leaving. As we journey further north, we see the impact of warming temperatures on the iconic ice caps. They are melting at an alarming rate, contributing to the rise in sea levels. This not only threatens coastal communities, but also affects traditional ways of life for the Indigenous people, who rely on the ice for hunting and transportation. The biodiversity, which Canada is known for, is also under threat. Species are being pushed out of their habitats due to changes in temperature and precipitation patterns. Imagine the vast forests losing their vibrancy, the rushing rivers running empty, and the once teeming wildlife becoming sparse. It's a grim picture indeed, but what about Canada's response to these environmental concerns? Well, despite being a signatory to several international climate agreements, the country has struggled to meet its climate goals. The reliance on fossil fuels, particularly for heating in the harsh winters, coupled with the extensive use of private vehicles, are some of the factors contributing to Canada's high greenhouse gas emissions. The country's efforts to transition to cleaner energy sources have been sluggish, further exacerbating the environmental problems. So, the Great Canadian Outdoors, once an attraction, is now a cause for concern. The beauty of its landscapes, the richness of its biodiversity, and the serenity of its spaces are being marred by the adverse effects of climate change. Add to it the slow pace of environmental action, and it's easy to see why people might think twice about calling Canada home. These environmental issues are further reducing Canada's appeal. So why is no one wanting to live in Canada anymore? It's a question that's been lingering throughout our discussion today. Let's take a quick look back at what we've uncovered. We've seen how the Canadian landscape is changing, with once vibrant cities now facing dwindling populations and rural areas struggling to keep up. We've also noted the economic hurdles that are making life difficult for many Canadians. High living costs, coupled with stagnant wages, are creating a challenging financial climate for many. Then, there's the social and political climate. From rising social inequalities to a political landscape that leaves many feeling unheard, there are growing concerns about the direction Canada is heading. And let's not forget about the environmental concerns. The impact of climate change is being felt across the country, with wildfires, flooding, and extreme weather events becoming all too common. But it's important to remember that these issues aren't unique to Canada. They're global challenges that require global solutions. And while Canada may be facing its share of struggles, it's also a country known for its resilience and its ability to come together in times of need. So, while it may seem like no one wants to live in Canada anymore, it's more accurate to say that Canadians are grappling with the same challenges that are affecting people all over the world. These are the reasons why Canada is losing its appeal, but remember, every cloud has a silver lining.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.